Welcome to the Bonnie Forward Show. I am your host, Bonnie Forward, and it is my enormous pleasure to welcome to the show my first music business guest, the legendary Val Garay. He's a Grammy award-winning producer, recording engineer with a career spanning over 4 decades. He started as a young singer-songwriter in the 60s. He's garnered over 100 gold, platinum records, 9 Grammy nominations, an Emmy nomination, and as I like to call him, the 1982 trifecta Trinity Grammy award-winning producer and engineer of the year, a record of the year for Mistaken Identity with Kim Carnes, and record of the year, song of the year for Bette Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes, all in the same year. Pretty impressive. So without further ado, welcome to the show, my old friend, Val Garay. Great to see you, my friend. Look at you. There you are. Hi, Val Garay. Okay, let's start out with the recent passing of Jimmy Buffett. Tell us the story of when you first met him. You are on mute, so I must ask to unmute you. There you go. Hang on. Unmute. Ask to unmute. Okay. Now I can hear you. Okay. So
when I first met Jimmy Buffett, my friend Corb Donahue is the head of publicity for ABC Dunhill Records. And he called me up on the phone and said, we just signed this new artist. And he's a great singer-songwriter. You got to come hear his record at my apartment. And he lived in those cool apartment buildings on Moore Park between Coldwater and Laurel, those wooden ones that there must be like 50 units in there. So I drove over and got to the apartment, found his apartment and walked in, and there was a 12-man life raft in the middle of the living room blown up. And the two of them were sitting in this life raft drinking margaritas and smoking pot. You know? And that was my first encounter with Jimmy Buffett. But I have to say that I listened to the whole album, and there was a phenomenal track on it that I really fell in love with, which was a song he wrote about his father called He Went to Paris, which is on that first Dunhill record, which is really a beautiful song. Because everybody, aligns him with the kind of goofy, Margaritaville, cheeseburger in heaven kind of garbage. And he was a serious songwriter at that point in time, and that was a very serious song.
Yes, it was a beautiful song. I think he was a lot deeper than people gave him credit for.
Well, no, I think people understood how deep he was, because you don't make those kind of comedy songs without being clever beyond belief. And, the other guy that was like that with the country artist was Ray Stevens, Ray Stevens did that song Guitar Zan, and, a couple of those other really incredibly, and Roger Miller, he was another one, Trailers for Sale or Rent.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a very, very clever, very intellectual songwriter, and
very loved.
Well, yeah, he managed to manufactured that over the years. But when I met him, nobody knew him from low to coal.
Right. And then he turned out to be a billionaire.
Yeah, well, he was a smart businessman, which very few people in the artist side of entertainment are.
It's very true. Very true. So take us through what brought you from the Bay Area, where you were born and raised, studying at Stanford School of Medicine, of all places, to LA and into a music career.
Well, it was pretty simple. Really, it was the Beatles. I mean, that's what did it. I've been playing in bands. I learned to play guitar when I was about 9 years old. My uncle, my father's brother. My father was a famous San Franciscoite singer, actor. Everybody in the Bay Area knew him. When he would send me a little, a check for my birthday for like $10 or whatever it was, I'd go down to the bank on Broadway, Burlingame to cash it, and the cashier, the woman, would go, "Oh my God, do you know Joaquin Garay? And I go, yeah, it's my father. So, I had that to deal with when I was a kid, and, my father coming to Burlingame Intermediate, pick us up in his Eldorado convertible, and, everybody's standing on the steps going, oh my God, and my father's, womanizing legend and being in Herb Cain's column every week for 30 years and, all that stuff. So my uncle was a great guitar player and had his own trio, Bobby Garay Trio, for 70 years all over the Bay Area. And he taught me to play guitar, and I really enjoyed trying to write songs. So that's kind of where I started. And then at about the time the Beatles broke, I was still going to school, and all I can tell you is you can get laid in a band with the Beatles' long hair look, and you can't get laid in a lab class. So that's pretty instrumental in me moving forward. No, but really, I would play in nightclubs in the Bay Area in San Mateo. There was this great bar on 3rd Street and El Camino. I can't think of the name of it now. And Wally Cox and Little E were the two black singers that used to do all the R&B stuff. And then there was this band with white guys in it, and I was one of those guys. So I started doing that on the weekends, and then one thing led to another, and I put a band together, and the next thing I knew, we were playing at the Teenage Fair and at the Dragon A Go-Go in Chinatown, and we had an agent who booked all the Embers in Redwood City and all these clubs, and we'd play up and down the peninsula. In fact,
you did well. So you did well.
One of the clubs we used to play at, there was a band called the Frantics, who were 4 guys from Seattle. Mm-hmm. And the guitar player was Jerry Miller, and the drummer was Don Stevenson, who later became Moby Grape. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's right in the middle of all the San Francisco, North Beach, the Jefferson Starship, which then was the Jefferson Airplane, which then the singer was Signe, not Grace.
I remember. Slip. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And when I first saw him playing, they used to play the intermissions at the Committee, and they had a conga player. They didn't. Skip Spence wasn't even playing drums with them then. So, I was in the beginning of that whole movement, and there was a guy who's a dear friend of mine who was kind of like the drug connection, where he was the pot guy. Mm-hmm. And he was always saying, we got to go to LA. We got to go to LA. And so one weekend he said to me, you want to go with me to LA? And this is after I'd been playing in bands for 3 or 4 years, and I was kind of burned out, and I went, yeah, why not? And my friend Rick Day, who was a bass player, who actually ended up in a band with me, was in a band then called the Vegetables. And he wrote a song that he sent to the manager of Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And the manager's name, I can't remember now, but he was a disc jockey from Seattle, famous disc jockey. And he called up Rick and said, and Rick and I'd made the demo in his garage in San Bruno. And Rick wasn't a great singer, but he always had an affected voice. So long story short, the guy called him up and said, we love the song. We want to record it, but we got to rewrite it. So we want half the writing and all the publishing. And Rick went, yeah, fine. You don't, you're
as you do.
You're 20 years old. You don't know. Yeah. And so when the record came out, it was their first hit. It was called Just Like Me.
Of course, I remember it very well.
They copied everything we did in the demo exactly. I mean, they didn't change a word, a note, nothing. So Rick, he had just moved to LA the week before I came down. And so when I came down, I ran into him at the Whiskey, and it was like I knew him and I knew a bunch of other people. And so I just sort of stayed. And I ended up some friends of mine had a band that was really well known at the time in the 60s, and they were the house band at the Whiskey for a while, called I can't think of the name of the band, but it was Mike Port and Joe Coogan, the Sons of Adam.
Oh, the Sons of Adam. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And they lived in a house on a moor, which is, if you're coming from the top of Laurel Canyon, the first street you can turn right on off of Laurel Canyon as you wind down is a moor. And they were the third house up, and it was a 2-bedroom house. And so I ended up moving in there and living on the living room floor. And I did that for about 4 months until a band from San Diego came up and they took over the living room floor, and I got one of the bedrooms, and that band was the Iron Butterfly.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So
I just love it.
that was my beginning days in Hollywood, and midnight runs to the Sunfax market for the Coke and fudge cookies, and
The munchies.
the munchies, yeah. Which later, that Sunfax market later became the Chalet Gourmet.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Which it had excellent food, must say.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, the one thing that I remember when I first met you back when you owned Record One, which is a whole nother show. But when you had Record One, I remembered how I had to like drive all the way in the back and then park in the thing and walk through the door. And I just remember the many times that I'd been there, but I remember the very first time was that place was plush, Val. That place was
$3.5 million in 1980 to build that. 3.5 million. Yeah.
Well, it was worth
I wanted it to look like a European house, kind of.
And that's exactly what it was.
Like. Yeah.
I remember how thick those deep forest green carpets you had.
Yep.
Were just, and the black tiles everywhere, and the just I mean, you even had a built-in full kitchen that was all black, and you had a full shower bathroom thing, and it was like just remember how the glass.
But I'll tell you the funny part is that in both bathrooms, when you first walked in, there was 2 bathrooms at the front there. They both had payphones in them.
I know. I was just going to say, I walked into one of those not knowing. And I was like, first thing I saw was a payphone next to the toilet. And I was like,
you know why?
Oh my God, this guy is so cheap.
You know why?
It worked. No.
You know why they had payphones?
What?
Because Linda Ronstadt insisted on having payphones put in so she could call her boyfriends and nobody could listen in on the call. Swear to God.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, privacy's everything.
Yeah. So I put in payphones.
I remember, well, there you go. I remember though, that classic picture of Russ Kunkel.
Yeah.
with the turban on his head.
Yeah.
It said, Kunkel is Valentino.
Right. That was Jackson Browne's photograph. He owned it. Yeah, eventually he came and got it because he let us have it for a while, but then he wanted it back. So then we changed the picture to Bob Getter, who looks like, the hood of a Pontiac, the emblem on it, like a 50 Pontiac, that guy with the big nose. And that's Bob used to pose. He'd go, and he looks just like it. So we took a big photograph and blew it up like that. And it said on the logo, it said Getter is Pontiac.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about the obvious, Bette Davis Eyes, Mr. Trinity trifecta winning.
It's funny the way people pronounce it. Some people say Bette Davis Eyes, and it's Bette Davis Eyes. The accent's on eyes. But a lot of people say it like you do. They go Bette Davis Eyes.
Oh, I see. So, Bette Davis Eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
Bette Davis Eyes.
The eyes.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Anyway.
I've been accused of having those kind of eyes. So, especially when that song came out. So tell me about I mean, the key to your success, from what I've read, is that, or what you have always said, is that the key to your success is that you view your role of a producer engineer as, I'm not there to put my indelible stamp on the record. so that people listen to it and hear Val Garay all over it. I go into each project with the full intention of bringing out the very best in the artists I'm working with. So how do you come up with the sounds that you create? What defined Bette Davis Eyes for you? I mean,
You'd have to have heard the demo, which I can actually play you because I have another computer sitting right here.
oh,
Which
super.
I can actually play you. You have to have heard the demo in order to understand what I did with this. So let me just pull this up and I'll play it for you. Put this on these, okay?
Yeah,
so this is the demo.
Okay. I see the young lad who is your assistant. It's very garbled.
So anyway, you can tell it's a completely different song.
Yeah, especially because it was completely garbled.
Oh, what?
Totally garbled.
I wonder if I can play it from here.
I should be able to.
from the computer.
On this side?
Yeah, do you have it on there?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to play it from here. Tell me if you can hear it, all right?
Yeah. No. It's better, but it's still garbled. Oh yeah, now I can sort of hear it. Yeah, enough to understand. There's nothing. There was like nothing there. So you started with nothing. Except
Basically, yes.
your voice.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what I do, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna, that's why I'm saying that how did you come up with the sounds that you created for that song?
Well,
Everybody knows
first of all, I sat down with a guitar and played it like a folk song because I knew that Jackie DeShannon was one of the writers.
Right, right.
She's a folk singer and she'd written great folk songs in her career. So I thought this is really a folk song, regardless of how Donna Weiss made the demo, because she was the other writer, because she made it like a Leon Russell track. It was really weird. So I sat down with an acoustic guitar and started slowing it down and playing it like a folk song. And then I went to Kim's genius keyboard guy, Bill Como, and I said, give me a riff that runs through the whole song. And he came up with, you know, the Bette Davis Eyes riff, which is right.
Yep.
And so that, coupled with the fact that we rehearsed the whole thing live to record it live, which we did. That was one take, and it was a rough mix I did the night I cut it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. All live vocal, nothing's overdubbed on it. It's all live.
Wow.
So, you know, that's the way we wanted to do it. And so with that, we'd spent 3 weeks at Lee's rehearsal studios in North Hollywood rehearsing that album before we cut a song. And what's also interesting is that I ended up beating John Lennon for the record of the year.
I was just going to mention that because I want to know.
Go ahead. And the night we started rehearsing Bette Davis Eyes, they came into the rehearsal studio and said John Lennon was just murdered.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's all kind of ironic, the whole thing.
Oh, or just all, yeah, it's just all the synchronicity is.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but I knew that, you know, because I'd worked with James and Carly so much on the JT record, I called Carl up because I knew she lived in the building next door to the Dakota. And I said, called her up on the phone. I said, Carl, look out the window and tell me what you see. And she said, oh my God. She said, I what's going on? I said, it said John Lennon just got shot because she said there was 50 police cars and 10, fire trucks and,
Ambulances and the whole thing, yeah. Yeah. What did it feel like being in the audience at the Grammys when they called your name? I mean, that was an unprecedented upset, if ever there was one in musical history, because it was a posthumous Grammy nomination, as Lennon had died in December. So,
well, he did win the album of the year, and I think they won that simply on, sympathy,
mhm.
because we should have won both. But the bottom line is we didn't win the album of the year, which they'd already announced. And so when they started announcing the artist for the record of the year, when they said Lionel Richie and Diana Ross for Endless Love, the audience went berserk. And I looked at Kim and she looked at me and went, oh shit, we're screwed. They're going to win it. And then I knew we'd won it the minute they opened the envelope, because Kenny Loggins, who's a dear friend, giggled and looked at me. I knew we'd won. So,
I mean, was it bittersweet to you because of John, or was it, or were you just like, yes?
well, yeah, it was yes, of course you're yes. I mean, my God, the record of the year is the hardest one to win, And back in those days when the Grammys were the Grammys, and everybody shows up in tuxedos and, it's not like the sideshow that it is today.
Yeah.
Because the first Grammy Awards I went to were in the 70s at, what's that theater on Sunset near Gower?
Oh, not the bandages, but the
It's across the street from
yeah.
what used to be the Hullabaloo. Anyway, that theater, they weren't even televised, the Grammys.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, I mean, you've got to be one of the most sought after, unbelievable, because you're unbelievably storied career, Val. It's utterly extraordinary what you've accomplished. I mean, you're a treasure and you're a music legend in my mind.
And yeah, I'll show you something too. This is interesting because I just recently have subscribed to these things. Hang on one second.
I mean, there are very few guys like you in this business, my friend, and I'm so very proud to know you.
Hang on a sec.
That's okay. You can thank me later.
I will. Thank you. What am I looking for?
Music.
Huh?
Music.
Yeah, that's what it is. So if you look at this program, it's called Muso AI, and what it does is it tracks all your streams. So this is my streams.
Whoa, hey now. I like it. Look at that. Woo.
And look at the top one.
Oh my God. Of course. Look at that. 1 billion.
Yeah.
Billion with a B.
Yeah.
Oh, Val. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. This is why I'm so proud to know you. It's like you are like, as far as I'm concerned, your impact on the entirety of the music world, which you have just shown us, with your gifts, it's not just here, but it's globally. You don't get 1 billion without being global. There are very few guys like you in this business, I'm telling you, and what is that thing that gets you to want to produce somebody? What is that it factor?
I've always been that character in, when I was in the bands, I was always the guy that was doing all the arrangements and picking the songs and, so I kind of always done that, and it was sort of a natural progression for me. And then all the years that I worked with Peter Asher, watching how he, produced records and his methodology, and, that was a great learning experience. And took me to another level, and then I developed my own and moved on from there.
So what are you currently up to?
Right now I'm finishing up these 2 songs for this new Christmas movie. The single that I finished, everybody's really excited about it because it's an amazing track. It comes out November 1st. And the song is called I Got It, and it's the singer is Jake Miller,
Uh-huh.
who has a huge following, and the movie's called Holiday Twist. And basically it's kind of a takeoff to me. I watched it, and it's kind of like a modern day version of It's a Wonderful World, where the angel
Oh,
comes back, but it's in a modern setting and stuff, but it's really cute. And
nice.
so I have 2 songs that I did for it. I did the end title song, which is called I Got You, which is it's a hit song. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a hit single. And then the other song that I wrote for it's called Holiday Twist, and it's kind of like a Chubby Checker meets Johnny Be Good
Oh, I
kind of
love it. I love it.
a Christmas song, which is titled Holiday Twist.
I love it.
That I'm just finishing now. And then that'll probably come out as a Christmas single in December after the other one.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love this. I'm going to ask you a question that I know it's going to be very hard for you to answer, but who would you love to work with that you never have?
The only person, people ask me that question all the time, and I thought about it a lot, and I think it'll never happen probably, but I'm in the same age group and I witnessed the entire career. So I think I qualify kind of in a kind of strange sense that way. Cause I mean, I do have the qualifications as, my history. I mean, I have over
Yeah,
120 gold and platinum records, so I mean, but I think if I could pick anybody that I would like to try to work with, it would be Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's because I would like to make a record with him that is like he made in the Beatles era. And I know enough about how they did that and the way they did that I could do that today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Which I think would be interesting.
You should reach out. You should reach out to him. You should, and I know Peter could get through to him if I know you can.
Yes.
You think?
I mean, talk about Peter. You want to talk about, Lady Luck standing on your shoulder. You're starting a band, and Paul McCartney moves in the upstairs bedroom of your house
with your sister.
Well, no, he was dating Jane, but at the same time, he was living in the attic bedroom of their house because Peter had a great house over there. Trying to think of the area that his family lived in, but I've seen pictures of the house, and the first 3 hits that Peter and Gordon had were all Paul McCartney songs that the Beatles didn't want to record.
Yep.
So yeah, talk about the right place at the right time, huh?
Oh man, no kidding.
But he does this thing now with the guy from Chad and Jeremy where they do songs together, and it's really fun to watch because Peter has great stories, Oh,
well, of course. And of course, Chad is dead now, but he was also a friend of mine back in the day. And yeah, Jeremy's did a great job as an actor too. He was he was an actor, very well-known British actor as well, which is wonderful. So it's great to see that everybody's still doing stuff. What's your favorite genre of music now?
I've always been a pop music fan.
Okay.
Always. Even in the 50s, growing up, listening to the radio.
Mhm.
I always loved that 3.5 minutes or 3 minutes of, inspiration that you get from a great song.
Well, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Music makes you feel
I can remember driving down El Camino at 2:30 in the morning after leaving a club in Redwood City that I went to, and hearing "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and I think I almost hit 3 parked cars on driving down the street. I mean, it was like a major life-changing experience for me.
It totally spoke to you. Yeah, I think everybody, once the Beatles, when they hit, they hit. It was like, yeah. You described it beautifully. Exactly.
And I also remember going to Wallach's Music City when I lived in Laurel Canyon with all those guys to buy Sergeant Pepper, and we all bought the album, ran up to the canyon and smoked a bunch of pot and listened to that for the first time. Oh my God. Oh my God, it was crazy. Yeah.
And you hung out with all the mamas and the papas and all that stuff too back in the day, right?
Uh-huh.
Because you guys were all in Laurel Canyon.
Well, and I knew John, really well.
Oh, that's cool.
And I actually, the first project that I did at the Sound Factory when I went to work there was the last Mamas and Papas record.
Really?
Yeah, People Like Us. Yeah, that last album they did together.
Song. I love that album and I love that song. I was just listening to that song the other day because it popped in my head. I mean, just amazing. So are you doing mostly indie stuff now with indie people, or what are you doing?
No, it just depends. The Richie Furay record that I did, it was all for BMG. It just depends on where they're at, who they're to.
Cool. And so I'm still blown by what you're showing me. Over a billion people globally have listened to Bette Davis Eyes. I mean, it's just woof.
Yeah, but over 3 billion have listened to my stuff.
I know.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. And it's a lot of people listening to it, I'm sure, over and over and over again. Who infamously calls you Valerie?
Do we really want to discuss that? That's my friend Robert Wachtel. And I call him Robert. The rest of the world calls him Waddy. But that happened many years ago. Yeah, he calls me Valerie and I call him Robert. I think the person that calls Waddy Robert is his mom.
I just love it. Well, as much as I hate to end this, we're now at the end of the show. So I want to thank you so very, very much for being my guest today, Mr. Val Garay.
Okay, Bonnie Forward.
Oh, that rhymes. What a great interview. Let's get together soon. It's been too long.
Okay, I'll come up there. I don't mind it. There's one of my favorite restaurants up there.
That's true. We go to you could take me to Monte Grappa.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That would be fun. Well, I love you, my old friend. Love you.
Okay.
Take care of yourself and keep me posted and send me some stuff. Send me some music. Send me some stuff.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Peace out, baby. So that concludes my show for today. And as always, I wish you all much love and light and peace out.